I'd like to welcome everybody to the Alberta Beef Producers 2021 Annual General Meeting. Before we start the day, I would like to go over just a few quick housekeeping points for participating in our virtual AGM. I recommend selecting the gallery viewing option for today's meeting. Please keep yourself muted and your camera off unless you would like to speak, at which point you can then use the raise hand function and the AGM chair will call on you. I already see faces disappearing. We will be doing introductions and would like, when we go to do our introductions, we would like you to turn your camera on at that point. We will be using the raise hand function to move, second, and pass motions or to vote in favor of a resolution. And just a quick reminder for everyone, only delegates may vote. You will find the raise hand function by selecting the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. I'll kind of give everybody a moment to see if it's there. If you don't see it there, then select the participants button and you will find it there. I will just give everybody a quick moment to find that raise hand function and let's just give it a quick practice run, okay? So if all delegates could please raise your hand. I'm seeing delegates without their hand raised so far.
Some are using the other reactions, like hand clap or thumbs up. Please don't use those.
Okay. So for those of you that are using the thumbs up reaction, please make sure you find the raise hand function. That thumbs up or the other reactions, they only actually stay on screen for 10 seconds. So we may not be able to capture your votes. I'm still waiting. There's a few that need to find that function.
Kelly, can you just repeat that one? Sorry.
Sure. So go down to the bottom of your screen to the reactions. If you click on the reactions, there should be a button that says raise hand. If not, then that means you have an older version of Zoom and you'll have to go to the participants list. Click on participants, go over to the bottom of that, to the bottom of the screen, and you'll see there's invite, mute me, lower hand as buttons at the bottom.
Yeah, got it. I have an older one. Shocking with Alenko.
I see Lee, Graham, Jim, and Chris giving us the thumbs up. Can you please find the lower hand function? This is going to be torturous right now, but we really need everybody to have it figured out for voting on our resolutions and motions throughout the day. You will make, Caitlin and Karen are in the background counting votes, and it'll make Caitlin, Karen, and Howard's lives move a lot smoother if you all locate it. All right, if there's no further questions, I will continue. So our annual general meeting is a time for our delegates to come together and reflect on the work that has been done this past year and to set the direction for the upcoming year. This has been an absolutely monumental year. We re-elected our entire delegate body, and we do have 4 delegates who are new to the organization. I'd like to give you all a welcome. We still have 3 positions available in the Northwest Zone and 1 position available in the Central Zone. I'd like to welcome all of our new and returning delegates. And if you do know potential delegates that enjoy promoting Alberta beef producers and want to be a part of the direction and organization, keep them in mind for bringing their names forward. Today, you'll hear about what we've been working on and have the chance to make decisions about the future and the direction of our organization. This meeting and the resolution process are different this year, but the ABP staff have been hard at work to make sure things go as efficiently as possible. Please keep in mind that no matter the planning, sometimes technology just doesn't want to cooperate, And if any issues do arise, we will get them sorted out as quickly as possible. As one of our past directors and past AGM chairs would always say, Cecily Fleming, she's famous for saying, this is a time to be soft on people and tough on issues. So now, to get this process started, I would like to officially call the annual general meeting to order. To keep us on track, and make sure we all stick to the rules of procedure, I'd like to introduce the chair of the annual general meeting. Howard Beckering is a past delegate and a former director from Zone 1 and currently chairs the ABP Governance Committee. I now move that Howard Beckering be approved as the chair of the 2021 Alberta Beef Producers Annual General Meeting. If I could please have a seconder out of the delegate body.
Joanne Salverson, I'll second that.
Thanks, Joanne. All in favor? Looks like we're getting a consensus there. So thank you all very much. And with that, Chairperson Howard, I turn the show over to you.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad I survived the vote. I welcomed, and this is we're breaking new ground here with an annual general meeting done online, and I'm hoping everything goes smoothly. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce the delegate body. If you're able to turn your camera on, please do so now. And when I call your name, can you please raise your hand or wave in the camera so we can identify you? So we'll start with the Southeast Zone. We have Brad Osadchuk.
Good morning.
Darren Bevins. Sean Frymark. Brody Hogan. And Craig Lair. And Jason Hale. And Kent Hollowuth. The Southwest Zone, we have Chris Israelson. Kelly Smith Fraser, Sheila Hilmer, Fred Lozman, Graham Finn, Jim Bohe, and Lee Irvin. Out of the Central Zone, we have Colin Campbell, Austin Dow, Kathy Sharp, Martin Clausen, Melissa Van Sickle, Ron Carleon. And in the Northeast Zone, we have Emil Dimitriou, Joanne Solverson, Shane Franklin, George LaRue, Jay Hager, Josie Pasholka, and Melanie Woke. And finally, out of the Northwest Zone, we have Lori Kinney, Mike Nadeau, Aaron Moskalik, and Gary Thies. So thank you, delegates, for your service and your willingness to come forward and represent the industry. So prior to the annual general meetings, elections were held for the ABP Board of Directors, the Beef Cattle Research Council representatives, and the Canadian Cattlemen's Association board members. I will now announce the results of those elections. Representing ABP on the Board of Directors is Darren Bevins, Colin Campbell, Rod Carleon, Jason Hale, Brody Hogan, Sheila Hilmer, Kent Hollowuth, Lee Irvin, Chris Israelson, Fred Lozman, Mike Nadeau, and Melanie Woke. And the representatives going to the Beef Cattle Research Council are Lee Irvin and Craig Lair. And finally, the representatives that are going representing Alberta and the Canadian Cattlemen's Association as board members is Charlie Christie, Sheila Hilmer, George LaRue, Doug Sawyer, Kathy Sharp, Kelly Smith Fraser, and Miles Woke. Congratulations to those elected, and thank you very much to all those who put their names forward to run for these elected positions. I would now like to call for a motion to destroy the ballots.
Colin Campbell moves to destroy the ballots.
Thank you, Colin. Seconder,
Lori Keating, I'll second.
Emil Demetri,
Lori. Thank you, Lori. All in favor, please use a raise hand function. Looks like the motion is carried. Thank you. So to ensure an orderly and efficient meeting, I'd like you all to refer to the rules of procedure. It's on page 15 in your AGM information package. So most of it's we've covered already, and so just knowledge that these are in fact rules and not suggestions. So at this point, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda of the meeting.
Craig Lair, I'll move the agenda.
Thank you, Craig. Seconder,
Melanie Wokel, second.
Emil Demetri,
Melanie, thank you. All in favor of adoption of the agenda? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, in your packages, there should be two sets of minutes, one for the 2019 annual general meeting on page 6 and the 2020 semi-annual general meeting. It'd be on page 13 in the both in the AGM information package. I would now look for a motion for adoption and approval of the minutes.
Melanie Wokel, adopt that we move the minutes.
Okay, I see Colin Campbell's hand up.
I'm sorry. I second
Oh, okay.
Melanie's motion.
Okay, thank you. Colin Campbell. Hey, all in favor of approval of the minutes? All right, motion is carried. Thank you very much. Ooh, we're 15 minutes early already. This is great. Is Minister Dreeshen on already, Roseanne?
No, we were expecting the minister approximately in about 5 minutes.
Okay. Anything we can cover between that time, or do you want to just wait for the minister to come on?
I think if Kelly doesn't disagree, we might just wait a few minutes and then we'll move into the report. We just move quicker through that part than expect.
Yeah.
Do we not have to approve the semi-annual minutes?
Well, they were all done in one motion.
Oh, all done in one motion? Okay, sorry. My apologies.
No, thank you.
Just, you want to just hang out and wait, Brad? Maybe Howard could like tell a joke, sing a song.
Potentially, Kelly, we could identify the people on the phone
Sure.
and
Let's
we
do
can get them renamed so we know who they are.
Okay.
Howard,
Go ahead. I'd say, go ahead. Yeah, Kelly,
sure.
whoever.
So we have someone that's called in from Saskatchewan, 306-468-7240. Maybe if you could please unmute and identify yourself. The next number we also have is 403-261-8330. I can't unmute you, so If you wouldn't mind unmuting yourselves, those that are on the phone, please be prepared. We
That
also have,
468, it's Ryder here. That 468 number, that's Arnold Balicki.
okay, Arnold Balicki. Got that, Karen?
Roseanne has to rename them.
Okay,
I can rename them. How do you spell Balicki?
Well, just like it sounds, eh? No, Balicki. And hello, everybody.
Hi, Ryder. Thanks for joining us, and thanks, Arnold, for joining us as well. Next number is 587-230-2081. Anybody know who that is?
Yeah, that's Cam Daniels from Harmony Beef.
Oh, okay. Hi, Cam. Welcome.
Welcome, Cam.
Thank you.
All right, then 403-261-8330.
That's Stan Church
Hi, Stan.
from
Welcome.
Marketing Council.
Hello, Stan.
Yeah.
Morning, Stan.
It's nice to have Marketing
Good.
Council represented here. 780-318-3317.
Yes, this is Austin Dow.
Hi, Austin. One of our new delegates from the Central Zone.
Kelly, just also, we do have Brent McEwen and Janelle Hancock here with us from Marketing Council as well.
Perfect. Welcome, Brent and Janelle. And I also see Doug Sawyer's here as well. Hi, Brent.
And the minister's here now.
Fabulous. I'll turn it back to you, Howard, and welcome the
Thank
minister.
Okay, we will move in, keep moving along. At this time, I would like to welcome Honorable Devin Dreeshen, Alberta Minister of Agriculture and Forestry. Minister Dreeshen was first elected to the Legislative Assembly of Alberta in a by-election on July 12, 2018 as the MLA for Innisfail-Sylvan Lake. He was re-elected on April 16, 2019. Minister Dreeshen is a fifth-generation local farm owner and Albertan. Farming near Pine Lake, he has a long record of community service. He is a former director of the Western Canadian Wheat Growers Association, a former board member on the Crossroads Agricultural Society, and a volunteer at the Pine Lake Country Fair. Minister Dreeshen was appointed as Alberta's Minister of Agriculture and Forestry on April 30th, 2019. He has a wealth of previous experience working on this file during his time in Ottawa when he was policy advisor to Agriculture Minister Jerry Ritz from 2008 to 2015, advocating for Canadian agricultural trade, improved rural infrastructure support, and leading the effort to end the Canadian Wheat Board monopoly. Minister Dreeshen, welcome. Minister Dreeshen, are you on?
I don't see him listed.
No, I don't see it either.
It was there.
I seen at the top of my screen where he had left the meeting, so he must be having some technical difficulty.
See, Doug, some of us at Pine Lake have good internet, hey?
Yeah, we're lucky.
He must be in Edmonton. He's not out at Pine Lake.
You just want to bear with us and we'll see if we can get Minister Dreeshen connected again.
This is where you're supposed to have your list of jokes, Howard.
Yeah, I apologize. Usually I roll right along. I'm unprepared in the joke department.
You're unprepared when we actually run on time.
I'm not used to being on time and being ahead of the game here. This is not me.
Yeah.
Howard, it's Doug. Do you want me to send Evan a text and see if he's able to get back on, or?
I see Brad on the phone. I see Brad on the phone, so.
Okay.
Kelly, maybe you could just repeat everything in French that you said earlier, and then that way we'll have everybody caught up.
I did definitely bust out the Rosetta Stone for some of my most recent meetings here, and definitely I'm as good as Parlez-vous Français, and I think that's about as much as I can remember.
Better than me.
Helps when you have a little Spanish back in there too. It's been wonderful. You know, I actually Howard was scrolling through the list of names that have joined us today. And it's been phenomenal to see the list of names that have joined us, you know, taking the time out to sit on one more Zoom meeting, because we all just, I think we all just love these things immensely. But we have a really strong contingent of people from other industry organizations. I'm seeing people from the purebred industry. I'm seeing people, some of our partners from ACFA joining us, as well as people from across the country. I've seen some CCA members from Ontario joining, and a lot of our national organizations have representatives here, and it's phenomenal. And I really appreciate to see all of you taking the time out of your day, because, oh my goodness. Sometimes it's a whole lot more fun to go and check cows and sit on one more Zoom meeting.
No, yeah, I concur with you there. So I see Minister Dreeshen is on, or can you hear us, Minister?
Yeah, can you hear and see me?
Yeah, hear you loud and clear. So I at this point I can turn the floor over to you. We did a big introduction already, so yeah.
No, perfect. Yeah, I guess from my standpoint, I wasn't sure if it was 10:30 or 10:20, but
no, we were moving a bit ahead of the game. I wasn't looking at the time very well, so it's on me.
No, I was just I got out of a caucus call, so this is much more entertaining. So that's a good thing. But no, thanks folks for giving me the opportunity to address you today. Obviously, our cattle industry in Alberta is so strong. I proudly be able to say there's more cattle than there are people in Alberta, and I hope it always stays that way. But you guys are so important to the agriculture sector. You're so important to Alberta's economy, and it's a real honor to be the agriculture minister, to be able to highlight the great work that you guys do. And I know that the industry has done a great job of being able to promote sustainability. And I think that is something that if there's, again, further things that we can do as a government to be able to help your industry promote the great work that you do, because I think everybody in this call realizes and understands and has seen, you know, certain groups around the world try to demonize what you do on a daily basis. And I think that is something that if we don't stand up and promote and defend our industry in modern agriculture, then I don't think anybody else is going to, the way it's been going. So it's something that, you know, obviously I appreciate the opportunity and happy to take any questions from you folks if you have them this morning. And I know that you know, 2020, obviously with the 2 big plants going down was very difficult for the industry. We immediately came out with an egg recovery program. Give actually kudos to the federal government for working with us on that. And you know, the $43 million set aside program was set up. That program is now ended for the feed subsidy. And I just think that really helped, you know, send the right market signals for fed cattle to be able to move through the system. And we always were committed that if there was another disruption in the fall or later on in the year, that we would look at, you know, feed support for cow calf guys as well, not just for the feedlots. But, you know, thankfully market, you know, prices did improve, and the supply chain is slowly chewing through that backlog that came up early in 2020. And 2021 looks pretty great. And it is something that obviously with the Ole Mill plant going down in Red Deer on the hog side, we're actually looking at doing something similar for an egg recovery response for them, again, just to try to help out when you know, really disaster strikes and it's through no fault of a producer. We want to make sure that the government's there to be able to help industry out when in a timely manner. So happy to take any questions. I know Kelly Smith Fraser, she's a good friend and neighbor of mine, and I always feel I can go over and have coffee with her to get the latest and greatest of cow politics. But no, just thanks guys for the opportunity to speak, and happy to take any questions if your agenda allows for it.
Thank you, Minister Dreeshen. Yeah, I believe we have time for a few questions. I appreciate your willingness to take any questions for the minister at this time. This is a good opportunity.
All right, I see Fred Losman has a question.
Okay. Fred, go ahead.
And hi, Minister. It's great to see you again.
Hey, Kelly.
And Nate.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Minister. That's fantastic to be able to see you and hear about you know, and your enthusiasm for the industry, and we certainly share that. So you have expressed your apprehension and hesitancy about upgrading, you know, the business risk management tools that we have available as beef producers. You know, and I'm thinking of agri-stability and livestock price insurance. Can you just comment more about, you know, why you're kind of thinking that way, why you're not really thrilled about the idea of upgrading those programs?
Sure. No, thanks, Fred. And I am actually thrilled about upgrading and improving those programs. Something that my first FBT meeting that was in Quebec City about 2 years ago, I spoke about how we need to be able to improve BRM programs. We should be able to grow the overall umbrella of the CAP programs, which the BRM programs fall into. But we also need to take a look at agri-stability. And that was something that I've just did, whether it was federal politics or provincial politics or just from a farming background, I've heard from so many folks that it is flawed in so many different ways. And when you look at revenue programs or revenue support programs or margin support programs in the past, whether it was CASE or GRIP or NISA, there's always been kind of an evolution or a change of those types of programs. And I think agri-stability in its current form doesn't work. And I think, you know, we obviously are considering the RML and the compensation proposal that the federal government put on the table at our last FBT meeting. And we've called on the federal government, I wrote a letter, I guess, to the federal government asking for the next FBT meeting to happen right away as soon as possible, because there ultimately has to be a vote amongst the provinces and the federal government to be able to make any changes within the 5-year framework of CAP. So we're still, I guess the ball's in their court to have that next FBT meeting. But I am committed, and something that I've sent out to all the commodity groups, of making meaningful structural changes to agri-stability. And that's something where personally, we've done some policy work on a margin-based insurance program that would state that if there's any reduction in your margin, regardless of what type of commodity you are, that you could be able to have revenue or margin coverage for your operation and be able to kind of smooth out through the bumps of just a cyclical industry, and that's, you know, AKA farming. So it is something that we want to do a lot of heavy policy lifting on changes to agri-stability, but we all ultimately want to work with commodity groups to be able to design a program that works. And I think at the last FBT meeting, again, actually at all of them, we actually had all the provinces and the federal government interested in an improvement program or replacement program for agri-stability, something that works across all commodity groups. And I mean, even in the cattle industry for your folks, you know, we've crunched out some numbers where agri-stability, if you're a feedlot, pays out tremendously. They had about, I think they got about half of the agri-stability payments in the last 3 or 4 years. There's about 40 feedlots that every single year have got over $300,000 in agri-stability payments. And not to say that that wasn't necessary or that there was a need for those 40 feedlots, but it does seem like when you look at the other spectrum, when you look at the entire spectrum of agriculture, whether it's cow-calf operators or crops or greenhouses or beekeepers, agri-stability never hardly pays out for those folks. And that's why we want to really be able to make a structural change to that program. So sorry if I was long-winded on that, but yeah, we're out doing lots of work when it comes to BRM reform.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's good to know. I mean, I would just encourage you. I think it's great to that you're thinking long term to improve these programs. But you know, I think the industry surely needs some help in the short term too. So I just encourage you to, yeah, if those FPT meeting, if that can happen soon, that would be great.
Yeah, and the majority vote that has to happen is the majority of the provinces, and it's also weighted to the majority of agriculture production across the country. And if kind of like a constitutional change, you have to have a certain amount of provinces on board. So once that vote actually happens, that's where we'll be able to see that change within the cap period.
Thanks.
Thanks, Fred.
Colin Campbell, you have a question?
Minister Dreeshen, I'd like you to expound on the issue of expanding margins at the processing level while the feedlot sector is losing $200 to $300 a head, and cow-calf producers are being squeezed continuously by the increasing cost of production, and yet there's a real reluctance to raise prices of calves at the farm gate level. It's just seemingly like the processors are doing it because they can. They're taking margins, rumored margins anywhere between $400 and $700 per head, and yet they're not passing on some of that bonus.
Yeah, no, thanks, Colin, and we've heard that from other industries as well. The hog guys, obviously, when you have Ole Mill, that's, you know, the vast majority of hog processing is done by one company, and they have a large herd in Saskatchewan. But then on the beef side, yeah, there's JBS and Cargill. They're the vast majority of the processing capacity in the province. So we as a province are trying to attract more processors to again increase that competition, and whether they're, you know, medium size, that kind of 500 or a couple hundred a head, you know, versus, you know, the large ones, the 5,000. We're trying to attract more processors here, and I think that helps with our low tax rate that we have now here in the province of Alberta, the lowest in Canada and one of the lowest in the North America. But also looking at, you know, red tape reduction. We're looking at a AOPA review to make sure that we could have, you know, intensive livestock or more facilities, you know, working with municipalities to make sure that it's easy for these types of businesses to start up. But when it comes to the pricing, you know, you know, if the markets are actually available to cow-calf producers, we're all ears of if there's a way that we can help, you know, cow-calf guys actually get the true value for their animals. So that's just what we're working on as a provincial government, is trying to increase that competition and make it easy for those type for slaughtered plants to set up shop here. But if there's more work that we can do to help your industry out, we're all ears.
Thank you.
I guess, Colin, what would be something just kind of off the top of your head that we could do as a provincial government?
That's perplexing question, because you know, past governments in Alberta have certainly welcomed the concentration of processing, which has speeded up this process, because in the mid 80s you had 6-7 pork or beef processing facilities, and there was competition for the cattle, and now it's 2. Well, if you don't want my price, go down to JBS. We talked today and we have the same price. So you're kind of stuck between rock and a hard place. And while Harmony's online, they do not seem, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but they're no more difference in price there either. So leaving North America going up, the value going up, and yet the actual price of the cattle going down. I thought we were partners in this business, but it's obviously our partners have decided, well, what's yours is mine, and what's mine's mine. It's the old divorce scenario, and it's becoming really difficult. And then we want an expanding cow herd in this province. It's not expanding, it's shrinking, and it's going to shrink even harder.
Well, yeah, and I think, just on the competition side, everybody on this call knows the struggles that Harmony had just to get set up, and on the municipality side, provincial side. So, that's a roadblock that we are trying to eliminate and work with municipalities to make sure that those types of businesses have a much clearer and faster way to set up shop. But yeah, like I said, we're all ears if there's other ways that we can, whether the soft hand of government or the tough fisted government, be able to help the industry be able to get the true value of their animals.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Last call for any questions for the minister. Seeing none, thank you again, Minister, for your address and the willingness to take part and answer some questions from us. We really, as an industry, really appreciate the work you've been doing.
No, well, thanks, Howard. And Kelly, you missed the opportunity to go skating because I checked the rink out this weekend and it's a complete mess. So there's no more skating.
Ours is still good. Ours is still good. So come on over, but I don't know what the last 2 days has been looking like. But honestly, thank you so much for coming on today and taking questions. I think that was absolutely phenomenal of you, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yep, you bet. Well, thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day and your AGM. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you guys today. So thank you.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much, Minister. Okay, we'll move along in our agenda. I'd like to now call on Kelly Smith-Fraser to present the ABP Chair's Report. Kelly?
Thanks, Howard. Honestly, I really appreciated Minister Dreeshen joining us today. And I do look forward to how he progresses the ag stability, the BRM changes request that we and CCA and many other industry organizations across the country have made of the federal government and our provincial government. And I really do look forward to hearing how he progresses that request at the next FedProv agriculture meeting. Hopefully it comes up soon. I do know that they did let me know that they were sending their request in on Tuesday. They were writing a letter to Minister Bebo. So I look forward to the results of that discussion. So this year has been a year that we have embarked on the changes of how we are actually connecting with our producers. We've developed our new ABP magazine. We are in the development of the online platform, as well as a new smartphone app. The very first issue of the ABP magazine arrived into mailboxes at the beginning of February. The new platform will have real-time market information. There will also be industry-related stories, and it will give the producer the ability to pick preferences based on their interests, what they want to see coming into their screen. So these new tools, they aim to connect with our producers in a way that will let them guide the type of content that they will receive from our organization. Brad Dubois will be providing more details in his presentation here shortly. I would really like to thank Brad Dubois for his exhaustive efforts in improving communications in just 8 really short, quick, fast months. They went by incredibly fast. He has brought substantive changes to everything into the organization. And I really, really appreciate all of the work that he has done. These changes have been approved by the board, and it is definitely bringing forward the bold moves that this organization needs. The 2020 producer meetings took place online at the end of the year with a producer town hall and then 2 resolution meetings where we saw attendance and participation from Alberta producers across the province. From those meetings, 23 resolutions were passed at the resolution meetings. Some of those, and they've moved through the resolution process. Some of those we will debate today, some at the board level. Delegate elections were held in 2 of our 5 zones. And as you heard from Howard, the board of director elections were held prior to this meeting, with all 12 directors now being elected at large by the new delegate body. The structure changes to Alberta beef producers have been implemented. There's been issues that have been identified, and some of those changes that were adopted still need to be implemented, but ensuring that we are able to address issues quickly as well as representative placements is an area that is needing clarity. Brad DeBow is going to speak further to this later on in the program. It's going to take time and perseverance to get the changes right. Significant changes to agricultural research funding was made by the Government of Alberta with the unveiling of results-driven agriculture research. ABP has been an active member of the ARDAR Advisory Committee. Through the committee, ABP has had the opportunity to provide input and feedback on the scope, governance, and research priorities. The ABP board just recently has nominated Fred Lozman to the ARDAR Board of Directors. There is an election, and those election results will be announced at their AGM next Tuesday. The Government of Alberta has committed $37 million per year for 10 years to ARDAR for agriculture research and knowledge transfer. We received exciting news in October. JBS had a new partnership with a food service company based in Japan and to supply a branded Alberta beef product. And what they were utilizing was already established premium beef brands. ABP saw this long-term commitment as recognition of the value and prestige held by the Alberta beef brand within international markets. And it's a strong reflection of the hard work and dedication of the beef producers in Alberta and across Western Canada. Just last week, Bouvry announced to our board that they also launched a new Alberta beef brand program. It's called McLeod's Leap, and it focuses on telling the story of Alberta's ranchers. They also have an expansion to their processing facility, which will approximately double their capacity. ABP joined other provincial agriculture commodity groups in submitting a letter to the Alberta Agriculture and Forestry Minister, encouraging government to support the proposed changes to the Agri-Stability Program. This included the removal of the reference margin limit and as well as an increase to the compensation rate. We have had many meetings with the minister, his office, and industry partners to promote the need of this request. Last week, we did receive confirmation that Minister Dreeshen and other provincial ministers have requested a meeting of the FedProv agriculture managers to discuss this. ABP and other industry partners worked with Alberta Environment and Parks to update the grazing lease disposition document. Alberta Environment and Parks aim to modernize the document and add in clauses to aid in compliance and communications. The original legal language was successfully maintained, while the remainder of the document was modernized. Mark Lysing, our government relations manager that joined us in November, he will speak about this further on within his presentation today. Woo! The Alberta Fed Cattle Set-Aside Program, put in place to eliminate the backlog of cattle from the very first wave of COVID-19, did take its final bids at the end of January. The program was able to clear up the backlog, minimize feedlot losses, and help maintain prices for cow-calf producers throughout the fall. We didn't see a significant market disruption here in Alberta through the fall, but we do continue to watch the COVID-19 numbers and outbreaks from across the province for any potential impacts to our industry. On a final note, Alberta beef producers, we would like to express appreciation to the directors, delegates, and especially the ABP staff for their willingness to adapt throughout the year as they continue to represent producers across the province. COVID-19 brought many changes to the organization, and not all of them were easy or a good time. Thanks, Howard. I guess I'll move that my chair report be accepted as presented.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for making the motion. I'm looking now for a seconder to the motion to accept the chair's report.
Fred Lozeman.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Howard. Sometimes I just can't help myself.
No, it's all right. No, it's all good. So moving on to the financial report. A short video will be played with the financial report, and Finance Chair Brad Osadchuk will be available to answer any questions following the presentation. So play the video report.
Just getting it queued up. One sec.
Financial position as of March 31st, 2020. The financial statements in the annual report have been audited and found in order by Kingston Ross Pasnick LLP. The statement of operations reflects net revenue from the Alberta service charge and non-refundable national levy of approximately $16.9 million, which is comparable to the prior year. ABP collected $9.4 million in national levy payments, which were forwarded to the Canadian Beef Checkoff Agency, who retain a small percentage for operations. The balance was allocated to Canada Beef, Beef Cattle Research Council, and to public and stakeholder engagements based upon an allocation determined annually by the ABP Board of Directors. Operating expenses for ABP were approximately $4.9 million. These expenses are listed in the Schedule 1 of financial statements in the annual report. ABP issued 1,066 service charge refunds for the total of approximately $3.2 million for the two refund periods in 2019. This represents roughly 41% of the service charge collected. ABP is working to improve producer confidence in our organization by demonstrating the value of the work done on their behalf with Alberta checkoff dollars. The ABP operations budget for the 2021 year is in the annual report. The ABP board has allocated $5 million for operations based on retained service charge revenue from the prior year and allocations from unrestricted net assets. The operations budget has been allocated as follows. 33% of the funds are allocated to the Canadian Cattlemen's Association. The CCA membership assessment is based on Alberta's marketing. The cattle industry is reliant on trade and market access and remains essential for our success. Through CCA, ABP is involved in policy and trade advocacy efforts with federal governments as well as the U.S. and international markets. 3.5% is allocated to ABP governance and oversight. Expenses include the cost of having an elected board of directors, an executive, and audit and governance committees. They assist the Commission in carrying out the responsibilities to achieve Alberta beef producers' mission, which is to strengthen the sustainability and competitiveness of the beef industry for the benefit of Alberta beef producers. 3.5% is allocated to the government relations and ABP policy. Expenses include the cost to identify, examine, and address issues of importance to the Alberta cattle industry and to ensure that policies, regulations, and actions implemented by ABP and other cattle organizations and the government bodies support the interests of the Alberta cattle industry. 12.5% is allocated to marketing and communications. Expenses include the cost to communicate, inform, advise, and engage Alberta producers and to showcase Alberta beef and define the industry. Tactics used to communicate include cattle country, grassroots, and the use of social media platforms. The marketing efforts include a major marketing campaign and sponsorship. 3.5% is allocated to national policy, trade advocacy, and legal. ABP invests in efforts to promote policy, regulations, and programs to improve international market access, as well as CCA provincial members have agreed to share in the legal costs for international trade action. 7.5% is allocated to stakeholder relations. Expenses related to building stronger collaborative relations with Alberta producers, the media, youth in our industry, and industry stakeholders. Tools used to network with these key roles include the ABP annual report, the ABP AGM, and the semi-annual meetings, town hall meetings and webinars, stakeholder and producer meetings, and sponsorship of 4-H. 7.5% is allocated to research, production, and extension. Expenses related to the enhanced competitiveness of Alberta producers in the areas of research and production, long-term sustainable access to land and water, environment and watershed issues, wildlife, forage, and related issues. 12.5% is allocated to staff associated with programs. In order for ABP to achieve its vision of being a strong, clear, and representative voice working on behalf of cattle producers of Alberta, staff are needed to implement, execute, monitor, and report on programs. 16.5% is allocated to administrative expenses. This area reflects the office and administration expenses incurred to provide the infrastructure needed to support the business conducted by ABP.
Okay, I'd like to call upon Brad Osadchuk now, if you want to say a few words to expand or and to answer any questions. So Brad, I turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Howard. Good morning, everybody. I'm glad you all could join us. At this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce our auditor, Jeff Olberg with Kingston, Ross & Pasnick. And he'll be on the call with us today if there's anything that he can help us with. Is there any questions from the floor? I'll ask again, is there any questions from the floor? Well, if not, I would move that the 2019-2020 ABP audited financial statements and auditor's report be accepted. Could I ask for a seconder? Sorry, Howard, I think that's your job.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, I'd ask for Mike Nadeau. Thank you, Mike. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Okay. I would also move that the firm Kingston Ross Pasnick be appointed as auditors for the 2020 and 2021 year-end audit.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone to second the motion? I see a pile of hands here, so let's go Austin Dow. Thank you, Austin. All in favor? Looks like the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, Brad, there's one more resolution yet, if you want to make the motion.
Yes, I would. Thanks, Howard. I would move that the finance report be accepted for informational purposes only.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone to second the motion? We'll take Gary Thies. Thank you, Gary. A whole lot of hands up there. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, thank you, Brad. So I'm now moving along. I'd now like to call upon ABP's General Manager, Brad DeBow, for the review of ABP's strategic plan. Brad?
Thank you, Howard. Just give me 1 second here as I try to share my screen. Hope everybody can see that. So I apologize. I will be touching on a few things that we've already touched on through Kelly's report and what Minister Dreeshen had already discussed, but we'll go briefly through the strategic plan coming from the AGM, or the annual general meeting of December of 2019, the plan that was put forward for 2020-2021. So just real quick, I'd like to review the ABP's vision. It is a strong and clear voice for cattle and beef producers, contributing to vigorous and profitable beef industry. Our mission statement is to strengthen the sustainability and competitiveness of the beef industry for the benefit of beef producers in Alberta. On your screen, just to not read through all of those, I'd just like to make mention that the Canada National Beef Strategy for 2020 through 2024, the pillars and goals is there, ABP core strategies, the cattle and beef industry priority, and the cattle and beef industry priorities there on your screen. So I'd like to start, you can follow along in your book. We'd start with the ABP strategic objectives for 2020-2021. The first one was to strengthen productive working relationships with key officials in the provincial government. We had several meetings with ABP, with the ABP executive and John Buckley, with Minister Nixon regarding leaseland, the leaseland agreement, as was mentioned before, numerous meetings with Minister Dreeshen on the BRM suite in conjunction with Alberta cattle feeders, as well as numerous letters supporting changes from 11 Alberta commodity organizations. ABP, as well as other commodities, were invited to review and provide comment on margin-based insurance program, which the Minister's office is developing in hopes of replacing the current BRM suite. We met with Minister Dreeshen on TWF, or temporary foreign workers, and how that program will be moving forward. Meeting again with Minister Dreeshen to review the agricultural budget for this upcoming year. Kelly met with the Federal Minister of Agriculture, Bibeau, twice, on one occasion to discuss EU imports trade deficit, as well as a second time, along with the Prime Minister, in regards to Canadian Agricultural Day. They discussed COVID implications, carbon tax, and current offers, and the current offer for changes to agri-stability. And lastly, we've had numerous other meetings throughout the year with ministers that have that we've looked at, taken on the red tape reduction issues, labor issues, and melt. Moving into our second objective, ensure that investments in research and technology provide Alberta cattle and beef producers with information and technology that will support sustainable and competitive operations. First, ABP continues to work closely with BCRC, Results-Driven Agriculture Research, Saskatchewan Agricultural Development Fund, Alberta Milk, Alberta Barley, and ACFA, as well as others that when appropriate. We've been working on extension programming with other groups, including BCRC. There are 7 feed and forage projects with CAP funding, 6 animal health projects with internal funding, and Karen will address some more of that in detail in her presentation. Number,
Brad,
yes,
do you want to scroll down?
no, there is.
Nope. There's nothing else? Okay.
The third point, increase the level of knowledge and understanding of the cattle and beef industry, as well as perceptions of Alberta beef among the public, young consumers, and students, the future consumers. We'd like to, going in there, we continue to support CAP, but due to COVID, it was unable to fulfill commitments in winter, the last winter and spring of 2020. When I say CAP, the Classroom Agricultural Program, we developed a push for ABP educational resources utilizing our marketing agency to teachers and parents when schools had to close due to COVID in March of last year. The uptake was very significant and will continue to utilize this method going forward. The third new Alberta Beef Producers educational resource is nearly complete. The challenge beef resources provided by ABP are organized around a series of challenges for student learning. These challenge resources provide activities that are structured to be implemented in 1 to 3 junior or senior high classes and support Alberta science, social studies, language arts, and English curriculums. Suggestions are also provided for possible integration into junior high career and technology foundations and some senior high career and technology studies courses. The three topics encourage students to explore agriculture through current issues. Those 3 topics are sustainability, resilience, and media messaging. Over the last couple of years, and we've spoke about this before, ABP did update its Beef in the Classroom resource and the K-5 resources. We also continue to support Glenbow Ranch and Edmonton Valley Zoo due to COVID interactions were either canceled or limited. Our fourth strategic objective, improve our communications with producers and the public through an enhanced communication strategy with robust measurements of engagement and effectiveness. ABP undertook a major shift in how the organization communicates with producers through a digital platform and app, as well as embracing a magazine of its own. This replaced the print newsletter, paid editorials, and reduced the number of cattle country spots to twice monthly. Financial resources from the former tools were redirected to the new format. This new venture allows for ABP to communicate the important work happening within our organization, as well as the ability to embrace other provincial and national organizations and help them communicate their important work as well. The tools will also include articles and information of interest that pertains to the beef industry. The goal is to be a leader in providing information to beef producers. If producers, feedlots, large beef-related brand companies find value in our new tools, they can participate with us by advertising. Our fifth objective, to generate positive government actions supporting beef producers' conservation and stewardship efforts on grazing leases, wildlife and predator management, and payments for ecosystem services. Working with AGLA and the Western Stock Growers over the course of 2020, numerous meetings were held with government officials, all working towards keeping the leaseholders agreement in place. The efforts of all 3 organizations, as well as government, were successful on an agreement that was reached and now is processing the backlog and renewing the lease renewals has started. The government and operational committee will continue to meet in 2021 to identify and improve lease agreement, as well as consider other issues moving forward. Mark will address more of these issues in his presentation coming up. Sixthly, our last objective, number 6, increase preparedness of the Alberta beef industry and Alberta cattle and beef producers to deal with emergencies, crisis, and drastic market fluctuations. Coming through COVID was a challenge, and the executive, as well as the board of directors, review ABP's crisis communications plan and made a few updates to it. During the COVID situation, ABP worked closely with CCA and other provincial organizations and provinces to develop responses and tools for beef industry. ABP will consider how all of our pieces would be implemented, how all or some of these pieces would be implemented in the event it is required again. Also, the implementation of the set aside program that just took last bids here in January was implemented. The program is being recognized for helping to stabilize fall calf prices and minimize feedlot losses while processing facilities work through the backlog created by the shutdowns in the spring. ABP, as well as other provincial and national organizations from across the province, have continued discussions around the BRM suite and changes required to make the program more user-friendly and worthwhile for producers to engage in. Continued talks with the government will proceed with the government of Alberta between ABP and partner organizations to continue to enhance the programs available to producers. Lastly, Cattle Industry Leaders Forum met in June and discussed COVID ramifications with plans to meet again soon to develop an industry response plan to any crises facing our industry. Whew. So that just take a few minutes to go over that. Now, I do believe in our playbook that we will be moving into breakout rooms, and we'll have 10 minutes for each one of those breakout rooms for the delegates within their zones to discuss the strategic objectives from the last year and what they'd like to see going forward.
Good. Okay, so priorities that we're going forward. So in honor of Rich Smith's perceived scrambled zone calling in the past, I'm going to do the same thing, and we'll start off with the central zone. Who's reporting for the central zone?
Good morning, folks. I could do this with our team. We did have a look at the strategic objectives, and the one piece that maybe we're struggling a little bit about is our fiscal reality and our ambitious agenda of objectives. And so wondered about, we weren't smart enough to say that one of these 6 isn't good enough and should be removed. But we do want something in there that ABP focuses on the longer than just short term, i.e. 1 year at a time, but a fiscal objective to either improve revenues, reduce costs, and be more effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. We'll move on to the Northwest zone. Who's reporting for the Northwest?
I can hear. We probably could have used a little more time, but we kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent, maybe on just discussing maybe there should be a priority to be pushing for a non-refundable checkoff again. We just, back to our finances, we need that. And we were talking about what kind of appetite we might have with the current government for that. I know that plebiscite wasn't that long ago, but we just feel that that's something that we need to be focused on, and that we need that change one way or the other. Somehow we need to go about that. So that's about as far as we got.
Thank you, Mike. Southeast zone.
All right, I guess that'll be me. So both comments so far from Rod and Mike have been kind of along the same lines as ours. Is we just really talked about priorities and strategic objectives. I think is in one word, survival. And we gotta probably at this point in time with the situation that our organization is in, we've got to maybe focus on fewer objectives and focus more on just a small portion of those and really get drilled down and figure out what we're going to do here. Retaining more dollars from the producers and, trying to instill some confidence, retain confidence in the ones that are leaving their dollars with us, and try to figure out how to instill more confidence in the ones that are pulling them back. So, and that is just, we're all well on our way. Our whole zone feels strongly about the positive direction we're going in with communication. So that's important, and it's going to remain important. So one thing, we talked about, really briefly, and it's is, maybe we really need some outside help with all of this. Maybe if look for some professional help on kind of strategizing our move forward, or whatever the board, I guess the new board will decide. But those are kind of the things that where we're heading to here with our group. It's just we're in survival mode. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Brad. Northeast Zone. Melanie?
Hi, so we agreed that we really need to keep the pressure on regarding ag stability and income stabilization, some type of income stabilization for especially cow-calf producers. I think anybody who's looked at the livestock insurance premiums again this year, they're a tad high, and the uptake I don't believe is going to be there. It's we need something that's definitely more in line with what producers can afford. And in regards to improving our message, I attended an Alberta Public Trust in Ag and Food research survey that was conducted by the Canadian Centre for Food Integrity. And what they found is that really consumer confidence is at an all-time high with farmers and ranchers right now. So let's continue building on that. We've got a lot of people believing in what we're doing and that we're doing it well. So let's keep going on that. I've had several phone calls over the last little while. I assume a lot of it has to do with my background, but we really need more rural veterinarians. I know that's sounding like a broken record, but people are starting to get a little bit worried and anxious out there, especially as calving season's ramping up. How are we going to bring veterinarians to Alberta? They used to have programs in Manitoba where if a veterinarian practiced in the province there for 2 years after graduation, they would pay their student loans. Perhaps the government could help with something like that, giving animal health technicians more responsibilities and the ability to do more things. They've recently opened that up to pregnancy diagnosis. So if we could keep moving along in those lines to try and help out, especially some of these producers that aren't close to veterinary centers.
Thank you, Melanie. And last but not least, the Southwest Zone.
Well, I'll speak for the Southwest, and they can yank my chain if I get out of line here. But we agreed with a lot of the other sentiments about our fiscal reality, and we should be a little bit more focused. 6 strategic objectives is too many. Which ones we drop, we're not sure. We did entertain maybe dropping number 5 or parts of number 5. And perhaps we also talked a little bit about adding a key performance indicator in number 1, which would measure how many times or how effective ABP is at joining with other beef organizations and being one voice to government. So we talked about that as well. So yeah, if anyone else from Southwest wants to add anything.
Anyone want to expand on what Fred was saying from the Southwest? Well, thank you, Fred. I'll turn it back over to Brad to for the delegate in-camera session?
So, yeah, just pull up my papers here. At this point in time, we will hold a delegate in-camera session. We don't make decisions during the in-camera, but it allows delegates to speak freely and helps to guide with decisions that occur during this session. Delegates will be moved to a breakout room for the in-camera session, and guests are welcome to break for lunch now, and we will reconvene the general session at 12:30.
Thank you, Brad. So guests, we can now break for lunch, and it will start again at 12:30.